Happy Friday and welcome back to the TwinSpires jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with Darin Zoccali, and Nick Tammaro is back filling in for James Scully. We've got a little bit of a different format here today. We normally tell you our best bets and fades of the week and what else we're looking forward to, but we're going to change things up and focus in on three key races from the weekend, all Breeders' Cup prep races, the Grade 1 Fourstardave, the Grade 1 Whitney, and the Clement Hirsch, a Grade 1 as well over at Del Mar. And we're going to also have our fades at the end, rapid fire style. Plus, as always, Darin will give us promos, tournaments to look out for this weekend. Nick, let's start off with the Grade 1 Fourstardave at Saratoga. This is race 8 on Saturday, post time 3:52 p.m. Eastern time. And we're going to debate amongst ourselves who is going to win this race. Tell me, who is your pick?
Yeah, this is a really fun race, Ashley and Darin, and I think one where contention runs deep. You know, you see a Grade 1 winner like Spirit of St. Louis, who you're going to talk about, who's 6-1 on the morning line. I went to the 5 win for the money. This is a horse I had a little bit of affinity for going into the Kelso last time out. He was reportedly training really well. I think in watching that Kelso back, what you have to be drawn to is number one, the trouble he ran into around the far turn, which I think Darin is going to talk about a little bit more extensively, but the important thing to remember is during the opening weekend of, it really wasn't the Saratoga meet, it was the July 4th Racing Festival. The inner part of the turf course of the inner turf was very, very strong. You wanted to save as much ground as possible. If you look at this race at various points, Think Big and Intellect are down towards the inside. Think Big was actually never really on the rail, but he was towards the inside. Intellect rode the rail until he tipped out. He actually had a great trip. Win for the Money never got near the rail. He was 3+ wide the entire way around there, ended up still putting in a really strong bid here to win a photo for third. You know, what I'm hopeful of is that they take Win for the Money back and let him make one run. His biggest career triumph to this point came in the Woodbine Mile when he laid back, made one run, came from about 4 lengths out, and he was successful doing it. Dylan Davis has been very aggressive with this horse in the last 3 starts where he's ridden him, and I just want him to be a little less aggressive. No doubt to me, the horse to beat is Johannes coming over from the West Coast, but he's off a long layoff, and everybody else I think you can kind of throw a blanket over, and there's a reason why all of them are pretty much somewhere between 4.5 and 10-1 in terms of price, at least amongst the real contenders. But my money will go to Win for the Money, who hopefully can work out the right trip this time around.
Darin, do you agree or do you see a different play here? Well, I guess we can see that you see a different play here.
I'd see a different play, but I'm taking a similar approach to Nick, and I do think that I would prefer a Win for the Money over the top 2 finishers coming out of the Kelso for the reasons that Nick spoke about. Look, I'm getting cute with this pick, but I'm going with Neat because this is a horse that now for 3 consecutive races has been completely screwed up by trips and circumstances. 3 starts back in the Henry Clark. I mean, this horse was literally checking and steadying the entire length of the stretch. Clearly was full of run and never got to show it. And then the dinner party, for some strange reason, the course was labeled good. It was far softer than good. They sent the horse to the lead. And he just looked completely uncomfortable where he was and was pulling himself up on the backstretch, then got checked again and was basically eased through the stretch. And then we go to the Kelso and into the far turn. He's last going into the far turn. And at this point, you see the 4 Donegal Momentum right there take a very bad step and pull up. And that's the one Neat who goes about 5-6 wide to get around him and now has to kind of pull on the left rein just to get him back anywhere near the vicinity of the rail. And look how wide he is still. Now, he has every right to just stay where he is the entire length of the stretch and not make up any ground. But he shifts to the outside, and he's actually running here. After overcoming all of that and having a horse swerve in front of him, you can't really expect this horse to finish any better than he is right here. And he's going to finish within just a couple, 3 lengths of the winner, and he's in a blanket photo there for third. So, you know, part of me says this is a horse that is continuously finding trouble in races, but I'm not going to blame it on him. I mean, he's gotten a bad ride twice, and the last race, he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Also, just a note, Donegal Momentum, who you saw bobble in that race, is completely fine. He slightly pulled a muscle coming out of that race, but he is in training and training into the Bernard Baruch. Obviously, if it had gotten hurt, we wouldn't show that video, but the horse is completely fine, and we're very, very thankful for that. But one of these days, Neat's going to get a trip, and he's going to show up with a run. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I might as well try it when he's 20-1. And so I'll take a stab in a race that I think is wide open.
I don't hate it. I feel like he shows up when he is a bigger price quite often. He also has the win in the Hall of Fame at Saratoga, which is taking place today, but he got that win last year. And we'll see what he is at post time, but he's always been a horse I've liked. And like you said, Darin, you might as well take a shot. I mean, Johannes is a big name, has big figures. Last season was a runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Mile, but coming off a layoff, and when he races away from California, he hasn't hit the board. So might as well take a shot, which is what I'm going to do here too with the seven Spirit of St. Louis at 6-1. I kind of went a couple different directions before I finally landed on Spirit of St. Louis and was kind of surprised because I normally try to play against this horse, but he got that big win in the Pegasus World Cup Turf as a long shot, and then he's been favored in his last three starts. And last out, he was a 7 length sixth in the Manhattan to deterministic, but previously racing at a mile, he has been racing longer in his last several starts, but at a mile, he's actually 3 for 4. So it's kind of a distance specialist angle here. He's got one win from 4 starts at Saratoga in 2 seconds, but he also seems to have a little bit of a pattern going at the moment, which is a little bit of a win-loss pattern. But I think if you throw out the last race and cut him back to a mile, and he should get a pretty hot pace, I would say, with deterministic going out there and, likely having my boy Prince pushing the pace and a couple others. So I'm looking for Spirit of St. Louis to close late and get the job done at a mile and bounce back off that sixth place finish.
Yeah, I think the one of the things that needs to be noted about the Manhattan is that, similar to what Darin and I have touched on with regards to the Kelso, the rail was down on the inner turf at Saratoga for the Manhattan, and there was an advantage to being inside, and Spirit of St. Louis was really never towards the inside. I did see trainer Chad Brown make a comment. He thinks that Spirit of St. Louis might not be quite as good at Saratoga. I think that might have to do with the racing at Saratoga being a little bit harder than it is anywhere else. I also think he's a better horse now than he's ever been in the past, and I think he's proven that on a number of occasions this year. Two-time Grade 1 winner. And yeah, he's been fortunate with some trips, but I thought he was interesting. He's a horse that I'm going to probably pick second, and he'll be prominent on my tickets for all of those reasons. I did want to tell you guys also that if you want to watch a replay, and why Neat is struggling now to get good trips is because he ran in the premier 3-year-old turf race of the first quarter every year, the Texas Turf Mile, back in January of 2024. So if you pull up that replay, I advise you mute it. But what happened was the leader bolted on the first turn, and he slid through on the rail, never left the inside, and suddenly had a 5-length lead. And now he's paying the price for it, right? A year and a half later, he's getting all these bad trips because he got the most unbelievable trip you could possibly find in the Texas Turf Mile. No, all kidding aside, if you like Win for the Money, I think you've at least got to acknowledge Need has a shot in here.
Well, we're all in disagreement of who we think our best bet is, but I think we all agree we want to play against the morning line favorite, Johannes. And the winner will receive a bid to the Breeders' Cup Mile in November at Del Mar. Let's now move over to the Whitney, a Grade 1 at Saratoga, race 10. Wait, I've got the wrong timestamp here. Hold on, I have Del Mar's 9:32 p.m. post time. That is incorrect. The 5:41 p.m. post time, race 11 at Saratoga. And Darin, I'll start with you. Who is your top play in this race?
Yes, look, I handicapped this race under the assumption that Mindframe is not running because obviously Todd Pletcher has said both those horses will not run, and I have not looked yet. Did Disarm, is he running today or did he scratch? Do we know?
He was
Because
an MTO today, so he's going to scratch.
he's going to scratch. I didn't know if that race was on the turf or not. Okay, so we'll see how Disarm fares. Look, this race, contrary thinking is in the race to likely ensure at least an honest enough early pace. A lot of the main players, Fierceness, White Abario, obviously Skippy Longstocking wants to be forward, and Mama's Gold is a speedball. There looks like there's plenty of speed signed on here. And when Sierra Leone gets a setup, he runs. And obviously he got the setup of all setups last year in the Breeders' Cup Classic, where Fierceness and Forever Young were either on or extremely close to a very fast pace. You see the three-quarter factions there on 109 and change. And Sierra Leone came from well back to swoop the field and go by everybody. I think there's certainly an argument to be made that Fierceness ran the best race on this day, given how he fought tooth and nail to the wire. Forever Young was able to kind of lumber along and stay third. But this race shows you that when Sierra Leone does get the setup, this is the type of race that he's able to produce. Do I think he's the most talented horse in the field? Not necessarily. But on paper, with the amount of speed signed on in here, I think he works out the trip that he wants to work out. So in this spot, I think this is one of those times that I give a nod to Sierra Leone, who I don't pick often, but given the circumstance, I think he's going to benefit from a very lively clip.
Nick, you're on the same pick, so why do you like Sierra Leone?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Darin said. I think it's also worth noting. I thought his Foster was terrific,
Mhm.
and I think the way that race unfolded, the way the pace shook out, he really didn't have things his way and still ran on. One of the things about Sierra Leone that when he's been on his game, at least in his recent starts, taking out the New Orleans handicap, he's been closer. So he's not that Breeders' Cup Classic is a good example. That was not some giant collapse race where he stumbled along and got up in the final jump from deep in the pack. He was making a move with a half mile to go to get himself into contention, made that big move around the turn. He had the lead basically at the quarter pole and then had to stave everybody off from there. It's been bandied about whether trainer Chad Brown should enter a rabbit for him, and now they're doing so. Ironically, it's a race where he probably didn't need a rabbit, given that Mama's Gold is in there, but they're bringing the rabbit anyway. And contrary thinking will only have one job, which is to ensure a very strong pace here. And you have to believe that that's going to take a toll on a horse like Fierceness, who just didn't run as well in the Met Mile last out as we kind of hoped he would. So it's a potential bounce back spot for him. Sierra Leone now, I think is going to go off the favorite. David's the best morning line maker around, but I still think Sierra Leone will go off favorite here. The public loves him, and for all the reasons Darin and I have laid out, he makes a lot of sense.
And by the way, I do think Fierceness is the more talented horse. I just think that Fierceness, anytime he's presented with any kind of adversity, he does not fire. And I'm not calling the Breeders' Cup Classic adversity. That's just him on the lead and a very good horse showing how much talent he has. The Met Mile, he did not get the trip that he wants. We've seen it before. When he breaks slowly or faces any type of an issue, he does not run his race. I think his A+ race beats anybody. You just never really know when you're going to get it. And this race, I think, is going to be very difficult on him given the pace scenario.
Yeah, he wants you to play his game, right? That's his thing. Is it when he has to play somebody else's game, he just ends up really not even playing.
It's interesting. This is the fifth meeting between Sierra Leone and Fierceness. Fierceness, I think, has the advantage slightly, and especially at Saratoga. He's 3 for 4 with 1 second at Saratoga. And you mentioned, Nick, that with Spirit of St. Louis, Chad Brown said that maybe he didn't like Saratoga, but we actually have Sierra Leone 0 for 3 at Saratoga so far. So I decided to go with White Barrio because I do think Fierceness has a shot here, especially that he likes this track so much. But White Barrio has been training really well. I read Ortiz Jr. is aboard. He's a 30% winner at Saratoga right now. And if you look at the last 3 starts, White Barrio has won by open lengths in his second and third start back. Last out, when he was racing over a sloppy track at Saratoga, he got bumped around, didn't have a very clean trip that day. So I'm drawing a line through that race in the Met Mile, and I'm going to take what I hope is going to be something around 4-1 on White Barrio and try to play against both of these likely heavy favorites at post time in Sierra Leone and Fierceness.
This is the most mysterious horse in racing to me, right? Because he has these three performances that have just simply never been duplicated. And I guess you can't say duplicated when there were three of them, but the 23 Whitney, the 23 Classic, and the 25 Pegasus World Cup are these otherworldly performances where he looks like a potential all-time great, and they just exist in isolation, right? He was totally listless in this year's Met Mile, just like he was in 24, and didn't really run well at any point in 24. But now, yeah, I mean, he's always trained well. He's a good horse. You would expect him to train well. I'd never know what to do with him. I think I'm more inclined to probably try and beat him at 4-1. Because the worry that I have, and I guess you can tell us since you like him, what does he do in his super fast paced race, Ashley?
I was thinking that maybe he's just going to sit maybe second or third off the pace. And then, he's had some triple digit late pace figures there. So if he can, just track that early speed, that's the kind of trip I'm looking for here.
Yeah. My problem with him in this race, aside from the fact that, and listen, Nick and I are handicappers who watch racing every day, and I've been doing so for a very long time. There is nothing that I can do one way or the other to tell you how I expect this horse to run. I mean, he is just a complete flip of the coin, and it's either he's really good or he's not good at all for the most part. My problem with him in this spot is Mama's Gold we know is going. Contrary thinking is only in the race to go, and Fierceness we know has to go forward as well. So what kind of a spot does that put White Barrio in? I don't think he gets to a spot because I don't think he's any quicker than Fierceness. I don't think he gets to a spot where he's second and third. I think he gets to a spot where he's fifth in and behind horses, and I just don't see him running his best race under that circumstance. Now, granted, based on what I just said, this will probably be the time that he jumps up and wins by 5. But this race on paper with the speed and where fierceness is and who's outside of him, and I just think he's not going to be in a good spot for what he wants to do.
I
It'll
basically
also
need a Pegasus World Cup trip because he was sitting in fifth at that first call and then
Mhm.
started to move forward before he ran away with it by 6 1/4 lengths. So that's what
That's
I'm
fair.
hoping I get, which we saw part of that replay earlier. But yeah, I know it's a little bit of a wild card here because there are times where he does nothing, like you mentioned, both times in the Met Mile, the last 2 times. But I am looking for that Irad Ortiz magic, especially with how well he's doing at Saratoga and trying to beat those two heavy prices or two heavy favorites.
No, no question. And the odd thing about rabbits, right, and we don't see it that often, especially on dirt, is that there is a little bit of art necessarily to the science of using a rabbit, because if you send a rabbit out and they open up 10 lengths on everybody else, you've essentially just created two races where the first one can't be won. So
Right.
you want the rabbit to kind of, if you're trying to create enough pace, you need fierceness to get sucked into the rabbit a little bit. Because if John Velasquez decides, you know what, the hell with it, I'll let Mama's Golden Contrary Thinking run off. And if they go 22 and 45, but they're 10 lengths ahead of everybody else, I'm just going to set the pace in the second race. So that'll really go a long way towards determining how a horse like White Abarrio is really capable of performing, because he wants to be about a length off of fierceness, I think. And he's going to try and follow fierceness around there. If they get moved to the point where, this goes like 22 and 4, and then they really gas up to second quarter, then everybody's in big trouble. And this is going to be a Sierra Leone post time exacta.
Glad you mentioned post time. Wanted to give him a shout out because he's one of the coolest horses in training. 18
Phenomenal.
starts, has never missed the board. Really happy to see him give him another chance at this grade 1 level. He ran an unbelievable race in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year. Ran a really good Whitney. And, maybe he's not quite as good as the best horses in here, but he's been given a platform a couple of times to show up in top flight grade 1 company. Second in the Met Mile, third in the Whitney, second in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Just have to give a tip of the hat to this guy, regardless of distance, situation, circumstance, class. He shows up every single day, and he's just such a cool racehorse.
And it was a smart move by the connections to skip the Foster and run at Laurel in an effort to get here, right? As that race played out, he would have had virtually no chance. He's not going to outclose Sierra Leone, but yeah, he's a super fun horse. For my own bankroll, I wish he had won the Dirt Mile last year, but he put forth a really, really excellent effort. And so he's a horse that figures to benefit from the race flow in this spot.
Yep.
To round out our top plays, we're going to look at Del Mar, the Clement Hirsch, a 1 in year in for the Breeders' Cup Distaff. And this is race 10, 9:32 p.m. post time, and it's a mile and a 16th. Let's see, Darin, you're on the same pick as me. Let's talk about Seismic Beauty.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see a way to pick against her in this spot off the last couple of starts. I mean, since stretching out around 2 turns, she's been a completely different racehorse. She's got speed drawn down to the inside. Perhaps Richie in this race is going to push her along, and that could make things a bit uncomfortable for her. And I guess that's definitely an appropriate position to take. But I'm not sold on Copion going around 2 turns because her two-turn races are far inferior to what she has done sprinting. So because of that, I can't like Copion. And I'm just going to take the horse that's got the shortest way around the track with speed, who has turned into a different horse since stretching out around 2 turns. And then the other element to it is, both the 1 and the 5 are trained by Bob Baffert. I mean, are they really going heads up, nose to nose battling on the front end here? I would be surprised if that's the situation. This is a grade 1 race after all. So, yeah, Seismic Beauty for me, nothing really too creative about it. I'm just going to make it pretty cut and dry that I think she's a 2-turn monster at this point.
I don't have much more to add to that. I think you're right with Baffert. He's not going to send both of his early speed out at the same time. I think Ricci probably sits off of Seismic Beauty, but looking at her recent performances, and you got Juan Hernandez aboard. He was the regular rider until Antonio Fresu picked up the mount last out, and Fresu is going to be on Ricci, but you got to respect Seismic Beauty, the speed that she's got. I know Royal Spa likely, hopefully, if she has a good race, would come from off the pace and get a really hot pace. But yeah, I'm not getting a great price, but I'm going to stick with Seismic Beauty myself. And Nick is taking the contrarian view here, so he'll tell us about Royal Spa.
Ever the contrarian, right? I mean, I think the two pace related questions are the one that you guys laid out, which is, how the heck can Bob Baffert run two horses with speed and have them battle with each other? The other part of it is, where's Copian going to be early? Because you
Hmm.
can't envision Copian's going to be far off this pace. So, if Team Baffert decides that it's Seismic Beauty's turn to get the lead and Ricci is taken back, well, then Copian kind of has to be on Seismic Beauty's flank, I would think. I did really dislike the idea of stretching Copian out. She's too good a sprinter, but I understand the distaff is worth a little bit more and whatnot. I don't think this horse is getting a mile and an eighth with a bus ticket, but we'll see. Famous last words potentially. So in that vein, I picked Royal Spa. I thought Royal Spa was pressed into a pace-setting role last out against Torpedo Anna. That really isn't her game. They drew inside of her. It was the best move to try and lead, and it ended up just kind of getting her out of her A race. She's a horse that really is ideally suited to the kind of race she ran two back when she can lay back and make one run. So I just wanted to go there. I think she'll be the best price of the horses who can win this race without question. And I really respect both of those Baffert horses. I think they're both very good. And Ricci's two-turn races have actually been very, very strong.
Hmm.
Cavalieri, who obviously had some type of injury, I was hoping she'd come over for the La Troyenne earlier in the year. She was a very good second to her in the Beholder Mile and came back and looked really good winning her next start. So I'm going to hope that Royal Spa gets the setup and can get the job done. Hector Berrios has been so good at getting horses into the right spot in the opening stages of really any races I've seen him in. But I was trying every alternative I possibly could. So Royal Spa is where I landed.
And I like the pick. I thought she ran a tremendous race in the Florida Lee behind Torpedo Anna. Like you said, with a trip that I don't think is her best trip, even though she did go wire to wire in the mud at Laurel. I think that was just a product of her being the best horse on the day that day. I do think she wants to be relegated to a more stalking closing type of a role, which is what she's going to get here. And I gave her a good long look as well. And I wanted to actually bet her coming out of the Florida Lee in her next start. I did not expect it to be in California. That kind of threw me off a little bit. But I do like the pick. I think she is a legitimate win contender.
Before we move on to our rapid fire fades, Darin, what are our promos and tournaments this weekend?
Yeah, got a couple of good ones on the promo side. Let's start and going to the world of harness racing. First things first, you see that on the left hand side of the screen, we have a Hambletonian Day profit boost. They've got 16 races at the Meadowlands tomorrow. All of them are eligible for this 15% profit boost on Win Exacta Try and Super Wagers. So be sure to be opted in if you are a big harness racing fan. Even if you're a thoroughbred fan, it's a day with very large pools. They typically handle $7 to $8 million, which will probably make it the second or third highest handling track of the day. And the racing is outstanding as well. And it features the American Trotting Classic, the Kentucky Derby of harness racing itself, in the 100th edition of the Hambletonian. So we're happy to be partnered up with the Meadowlands to offer this to our players. And the Summer Selected Races Money Back continues. This offers a series of races between Saratoga and Colonial and Ellis. So be sure to be heading over there, seeing what races are going to be used this particular weekend. Be sure to be opted in and play those races with a little bit more confidence to know that if you run second or third, you can get your money back up to $10. So that's what we got on the promo side. On the tournament side, it's really simple. Tomorrow we have a Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge NHC qualifier featuring Whitney Day at Saratoga. So a tremendous card of racing for that qualifier. Today, we have a bonus feeder for that qualifier. Bonus feeder means that once we get to 10 entries, which we've already been long since passed, we award one seat for every 4 entries the rest of the way. So it's an opportunity to get your seat at a discounted price. We're happy to cover whatever the extra cost is. It's part of our bonus plan for pushing our tournament. So bonus feeder today into the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge NHC qualifier tomorrow on Whitney Day.
And to close out, we will still tell you our favorites that we're going to play against, but we're going to do it a little bit quicker than we normally do, rapid fire style. So, Nick, start us off. Who are you fading at a short price?
Yeah, I'm going to fade Obliteration in the Saratoga Special, who comes in off a huge win last time out in the Sanford, rode the rail that day, which wasn't any big advantage to being inside. But, this is probably an amateurish move on my part, but I watched his workout with Tagermeen, who's coming back in Saturday's first, and Tagermeen pretty handily outworked him. So if you see Tagermeen run off the screen in the opener on Saturday, maybe take this fade idea and throw it in the trash. But if he somehow underperforms, then downgrade Obliteration a little bit more. I will admit I did this in part because I really liked Comport, and 15 minutes after I sent my text into the guys, I saw that Comport scratching to run at Ellis. So we'll see. We'll maybe get Ewing home to beat Obliteration, who's my fade in the Saratoga Special.
I personally thought maybe you picked this just to prove that you don't always back Steve Asmussen.
I love Steve, so he knows it. He was a big mistake by somebody to give me Steve's phone number years ago. He probably regrets it.
Darin, who are you fading at a short price?
Race number 7, an allowance event, the 3-1 morning line choice, Credit Worthy, who ran 3 times on the turf, ended up in an advantageous position last time out against an overmatched field over a sloppy sealed racetrack. We see a lot of times that horses that get over the turf can handle this type of a surface. So I'm not completely sold that on a fast track Credit Worthy against what I think is a much better field than what he faced last time is worth investing in. I think there's plenty of talent in here. Horses that have run some monster figures in the past. There's a lot of early speed. I just think there's a lot of different directions to go here. You can get a lot more creative. So, I personally like Dillinger in the race. So for me, at 6-1 on Dillinger, I think Credit Worthy is a legit fade as the favorite.
I like it. And I will take it to the Saratoga Derby at a mile and 3/16 on the turf. And I'm going to fade number 7, Hot as Hell, 7-5. And it probably won't be hot as hell at Saratoga. It's going to be 79, a high of 79. Not too bad. But I expect other European invaders to be forwardly placed. Pace scenario is still a little bit of a mystery to me, but I am going to play against this first-time U.S. starter whose 4 career wins have come at 7 furlongs or a mile on good to soft turf. I'll probably play Test Score or New Century. I actually like New Century at 6-1 in this field.
This is a cranberry bog they're running over here. I mean, we haven't we postpone races that are run on turf courses half this way.
Yeah. He's a really, I mean, look, he's a really nice horse. He took Henri Matisse to a length, the eventual French 2000 Guineas winner. He ran third behind Field of Gold, of course, who's probably the best 3-year-old in Europe, despite his recent performance in what was a very odd running of the Sussex Stakes. But I think the interesting thing with this race is the European horses all appear to have some version of early speed. Whether that not stacks up with American speed remains to be seen. But if you go back and you watch their replays, all of these horses want to be forward. And if you really want to get a kick out of a replay, go watch the Derby trial that Julier just ran in Germany. It is a wild race to watch. I actually like Final Gambit in here, so I'm against the favorite as well. And Final Gambit's not a horse I ever thought I'd be picking in a grade 1 on turf, but I think he might actually get a setup here.
I don't hate it. Yeah, I think a late runner looks like a good shot here. All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for the TwinSpires jury. Thanks, Nick, for joining us. We will see a lot of Nick next week at Colonial Downs for Arlington Million weekend. And yeah, Darin will be joining us as well for, I believe it's going to be another Friday jury. So check that out on our social channels and all of our coverage of Colonial Downs and Arlington Million weekend. We'll see you then.